Hello friends and welcome to the Urban Homesteading channel. If today is your first time visiting with us, we want to extend to you a very warm welcome and invite you to view any of our 500 videos arranged for your convenience in playlists, as we are confident you're going to find something both entertaining and useful. If you have been here before but you have not subscribed, do subscribe. If today is your birthday, we want to wish you a very happy birthday. Welcome friends, we are here by the new soap and we're starting today making the changes that we need to make this a usable space. So stick around and we're going to show you in probably a few episodes, not just today, on how we're going to turn this nice set we built into a very nice and useful soap. So stick around and we are going to show you how this is going to happen. So the first project we're going to tackle in the new soap is power. You need electricity, you need power to work. So today we're going to install a fuse box, and then we're going to install receptacles and switches throughout the soap. So we are going to have power whenever we're here. Initially, we're going to set it for temporary power. We're going to have a cord from the house here, and then down the road we're going to make this permanent, but we're going to wire it correctly to start with correct receptacles, not with extension cords. And also, we are thinking of making the soap solar. So we are going to have in our mind that down the road we need to have it wired, that if we need it to be solar, connect batteries to it, we can do that. So we're going to show you how this is going to work. And this process is the same if you want to wire a house, a new room, whatever. We're going to give you step-by-step instructions on how to do wiring in a structure. We just cut some lumber now. I think I would like this. This is now temporary, but we might make that a permanent cutting station, so we don't have to move the saw like we did before all the time, right? So, all right.
We are recording now.
Okay. So we're going to cut two lengths of 18 1/4.
Okay, there's the first piece.
Okay. Tell me when you're ready.
Ready.
Let's dry fit them. And then that one. So what we're going to do here is we're going to give the hammer.
Yep.
So what are we doing now? We're going to set some headers, actually backings, to hang our fuse box. We decided, this is an arbitrary decision, it's whatever you want. We decided we want our fuse box here. And we're going to install the second one.
I think it's right there.
I can hear the wood pecking. All right. So I guess we only need one. Maybe we need to put two though, just for our sake. What do you think? It has only two openings.
It has holes where you can put them in there, like right there though. Or you could put one underneath.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So are you recording?
Mhm.
We're going to put our fuse box here, and all we're doing now is visually confirming that this is the correct placement for our brace, right? Okay. So we have temporarily hung the fuse box, as you can see, and we're going to secure it a little better. We only have it hung with the two hang screws, but we want to secure it a little better, so we're going to put two more screws, and that should give it a very secure okay. Things are so much easier to do when you can see. Amazing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's even better when you have a magnetized screw holder thingy.
Bit.
Oh, that's what it's called?
Sounds like something I would have come up with.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you need to tighten the tap ones at all?
Well, technically, but wouldn't that make it harder cutting in and out?
Hopefully we won't need to be taking it in and
That's
out.
what I'm hoping.
It should be permanent.
Okay.
All right.
So that's secure.
Yeah, that's perfect. And the reason we put this here is because we're in our seating, and if we try to put the screws on the seating, we risk going outside, hitting the outside. And also, it's better to have it this way, so whenever we finish it, it is not synced in. So now we're going to start laying out our boxes and doing our wiring. So we're now going to button it up because at this stage we're not going to use it. So we want everything to be secure. Do you have a flat? This is just not, it's too small.
A flat instead of a.
I mean, we can leave it as it is, it's not a big deal. And here we decided to go with a 6-circuit box. And the reason for that is because down the road, if I decide to go with 220 equipment, let's say we buy or sell something that's 220, this allows us the opportunity to have a 220 circuit on the box itself versus doing monkey business. This is very hard for some reason, maybe because it has never happened before. Okay. All right, good. So right next to our door, I usually come on this door because this is the door that has the lock, and also the other door has a lip to seal the two doors, right? So we're going to put a light switch. Even though initially we're going to light it with solar, we're not going to have solar lighting. Down the road for filming and other purposes, we might want and I didn't say that correctly, it will be solar, but it will be just the light solar. So down the road when we have either permanent connection or a solar connection, we want a way to turn lights on and off. Now, believe it or not, there is not an exact code on where to put receptacles and switches. So the concept is to do it in a comfortable height, right? So to us, that seems to be a comfortable height. A common height that people put it is 10 to 12 inches above the floor.
But for sockets. For sockets.
For sockets, yeah. Yeah, that's a little more than 10 inches.
Just a little bit, unless you shrunk quite a bit.
Right, okay. And I don't think so. But anyway, so we're going to start putting receptacles together. And we wish we had temperature transfer for you guys because North Carolina decided to be hot. Now, when you buy the boxes, there is an indentation there, and that is actually the thickness of drywall. Can you see it or not?
Yes.
That's the thickness of drywall, so you align that to your studs, and then when you put drywall, it becomes flush. Does that make sense? So if you're putting it on a finished structure, it is important that you do that. I will do that anyway, so there will be uniformity. I don't know if I will put drywall here or not yet. Yay! Nice and secure and fast.
Mm-hmm.
And loud, right?
Yes.
So it is the same process. All the boxes are the same, regardless if they're receptacles or
Light switches.
light switches. It just makes a difference what you put in the box. And they have knockouts. Do we need to go to the light?
No, I can see.
They have knockouts, usually 4 knockouts.
Well, just remember you're on camera, so we need to be able to see. So this is the knockout, and
Right.
they're on either end.
Right,
Okay, and that's where you're gonna feed the wires once you're
correct.
ready to
In
start
and out,
firing.
yes.
Right.
So usually we have one knockout bringing power in, and then another knockout taking the power to the next receptacle. So we're going to go ahead and do the rest of them. They're all done the same way as we saw you. And this is just an air hammer. You can use a normal hammer, but we're going to use the air hammer since we have it. We're going to decide where we're going to put them. We're going to put them on, and then we're going to show you where they are in the whole building, right?
And we have 10 for this building.
Well, that was our decision. We might
Right.
decide to add them or subtract them.
Right, but that's just so that we would have plenty of outlets for any of the electrical equipment that
Right.
we have.
All right, so we're going to do that, and we're going to get right now the same height, and we don't put them as low as normally they will go, right? Because we don't want you to have to bend down to plug them and unplug them. Let me tell you, this is so much more fun than hammering, isn't it?
Well, much faster.
Yep, and then no, back where you were.
The lip has to be down, yeah.
Just a hair this way, Tammy, towards the back. A little bit more. Yeah, right there, stop.
Okay. So this is for our future light, right? And that has concluded. Can you unhook from the hose so it doesn't leak? That has concluded our installation of our boxes, and you can see them here. Now, if you're wiring a house, code dictates that you have a receptacle on every wall, and if the wall is larger than 6 or 8 feet, every 6 feet. So we didn't have to meet that criterion, but we actually did, right?
Yeah.
Because we have one FC for every wall, and then we have, definitely this is 12 feet and we have 2, right? So we didn't measure that 6 feet. In a house you have to measure that, but, and here we have 3, so we are good to go with that. So the next step stick around and we're going to show you, we need to start installing Romex. So each box, as we showed you earlier, I think, has 4 knockouts. And you put your screwdriver, I don't know if it's visible, you see those little tabs?
Yep.
So you put the screwdriver in the tab and then you just hit, and as you see it opens, right? Now you simply need to, I mean, it's not an elegant process, you just need to remove it. Some people leave them in, I like to remove them, you know? So I will hit the top one too, so hopefully that will make it. I'm sorry, I know it's hard to.
There you go.
Okay, it went. All right, and this is where our wire will come through. The reason I prefer this side is because the switch comes this way, so it will be easier without having a lot of wiring to.
So what you mean is that the wire is going to come up on the same side where the screws are,
Right.
which is how you bring the power to that switch.
I mean, it's not a critical thing, it's just how I like to do it, you know, so you can do it a different way. And now, of course, this is our power in, and I like to put the power out on the top. It's the same process. Of course, the second time it always works better, right?
Yeah.
And now we have the in and the out for our power, right? And this is the same process if you want to put a receptacle or a switch. Make sense?
Okay.
Okay.
So
And
we're
there's
going
Max.
to wire and then we'll come back.
So here we start the wiring, and the wiring is the same regardless if it is a switch or a receptacle. The biggest difference, where is my switch? Yes, thank you. If you look at the receptacle, can you see it? It actually has 4 screws, right? One side is for the black or live cable, and the other is for white or neutral. And the brass is for the black, that's how I remember it, B for black, right? And the silver is for white. And this screw here is for ground. So on the box here, you're going to have both a black and a white attached to this. Now,
So here we've got black and white wire, and then the copper is your ground.
correct.
Okay?
Now what is important on this, you can see that there are 2 screws, but there is a tab that connects them. So you don't need wires on both screws. However, you can remove this tab, and then you're making the receptacle controlled by different circuits. So if you wanted to have a receptacle controlled by a switch, that's how you do it. You remove this tab and you wire this to a switch. Does that make sense?
So you would have to wire them independently.
Right.
If you remove that tab. If you leave the tab in there, then one wire will control both plugs.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, there is a little difference if you see on the switch, we do have the brass for the black, but we have nothing else. Notice that? That's a big difference, right?
Yeah.
And the reason for that is because the switch interrupts the flow of electricity. So that's all it does. So the white cable doesn't need to connect. It goes straight to the appliance you have, whatever it is, because it provides the return of the electricity. So you interrupt the white, that's what the switch does. You know, when it's off, there is a disconnect. When it is on, it allows electricity to come. So that is the major difference in wiring a receptacle versus a switch. Do you guys have any questions that I may have forgotten to say to our viewers?
No, and I think it'll make more sense as we're going and you're connecting them.
We hope so.
Yeah.
So now we've got a length of wire here, and that is going to be going for our light fixture, but we don't have a light yet.
We don't have a light, but we did install a box
Yeah.
up there.
Right. Because that's how we roll.
And so the switch here will wire to that one to turn it on and off.
Come on. And you need to use staples. You cannot have the wires just flying around.
Flying around inside the
Right.
walls.
So you need to have staples to do that.
So that's a staple. Let's see one that hasn't been installed yet so that we can show that.
And some of them don't have this protective cardboard. I think it's great if you overdo it and you break the insulation, you know. It provides a little
Right.
security that will
So
not
it's just a little piece
electrocute you, yes.
of cardboard looking there, and then you can see how it protects the wire when you've installed it.
All right, and we're going to do that all the way in, and also we're going to make some holes here, and there.
To feed the wire through.
To feed our wires.
And the headers.
So we're going to get to do that, and we'll show you. Did I forget to mention anything, guys?
Not so far.
All right, here. So you need a spade drill that it is bigger
A
than,
bit.
yeah, that is a little bigger than your wire itself. That's not very clear, but that's okay.
Here we go.
All right.
Okay.
And we are going to go here and make it happen. Ta-da! All right. So we're going to feed our wire through.
In this instance, this is, since we're just starting out, this is feet and feet of wire that has to come back through.
All right. This is very unsexy, but it's necessary. Is unsexy a word?
Yep.
All right.
Alanis Morissette wrote a whole song about it,
Yes, he did?
but it had nothing to do with wiring.
Nothing? Oh, come
Right.
on. There is nothing more unsexy than wiring. Okay.
You know what else? She thinks your tractor's sexy.
She does? I thought that was a Percy song.
Who does?
Alanis Morissette, apparently.
No,
Oh.
that's
I'm like, she didn't sing that song.
that's not Alanis Morissette. That's a lyric.
Okay. So can I have the hammer, please?
A hammer.
Let me see if the thing will do it.
Okay.
The-
So we've got that one installed. It's fed up through. We're going to continue attaching and drilling if necessary to get back up over here to our box, and we'll come back when we've got that wire installed.
So we did our first run, and this is going to be the cable that runs to our electrical lighting when we install it. So you need to put staples. And again, the code in our area is every 6 feet. You need to check with your area. And for an outside set, there's no code really, it's whatever you want, but we want to follow safe practices, right? So as you can see, the cable is stapled and it's going all the way to the receptacle. And we have left out, I don't remember how many, 6, 10 inches, something like that,
That's probably about 8 inches worth
of wire, so we can finish our wiring. At this stage, we're leaving the wires in their sheathing, and we're going to unsheath them only when we're ready to proceed, right? But now we're going to have to go from the bottom to our receptacle there, which is where we're going to get power. We're doing it a little backwards right now, but that's okay, right? We're going towards the box rather from the box to the receptacle. So we're going to have a short run from there to there, and that will provide power to that receptacle eventually, and then power to the switch, so ultimately to the light. All right, we'll be back. Of course, when I try to do it on camera, I cannot do it, right? And we use this nice tool that is designed to easily take the sheath away. Because this is a soap, closer to the, this, thank you. Because this is a soap, I chose heavier gauge wires, which make the process a little harder, but we're going to have heavy equipment operating here. In a house, you can go to a lower gauge than we went here. I think we went to 14, I don't remember what I chose. 12, okay. So you can go to a different gauge, and it makes it a little easier, but again, this is not going to be for light, this is for heavy equipment, so we want it to be better.
So this was a little like $6, $7 tool. It's designed so that when you stick the wire in there, that little blade that you can just see down the tube is what slices it. That way you can bring it back out. This tool also has a couple of other items on here. This is related to removing the wires from, moving the sheathing from the wires. And then these little loops here are to help you loop the wire when you're going to wrap them around the outlets or the switch, the little screws.
Right.
And again, this was a slightly less expensive option than some of the other things in there that we found.
Okay.
Okay, what else?
That's for now. So this is a while later. This is a lot of repetitive and tedious work, right?
And in the heat and the humidity here, it's also a little tiring.
Y'all wanted to move to North Carolina.
Y'all?
Yo. So a couple of things we want to notice. You can see we have holes here, and of course we're looking at the ugly side, but that's okay. It makes no difference.
Okay, let's look at the pretty side. There we go.
Sure, saw the one that the nail was missing. No, I'm joking. So when you do this, you need to be approximately in the middle of the stud, and that's for two reasons. First of all, it keeps the strength integrity of the board. If you cut too much on the side, you actually risk the board failing. And the other part is, in the house, it doesn't apply for us here, but if you're in the house, you don't want a nail going all the way through there, right?
Right.
And if you happen to be too close to the edge for whatever reason, then the hardware store sells metal plates that by code you have to put over it so no nail can go through.
Right, so if you were to finish this out with sheetrock, those are the nails you're referring to, and you
Right.
don't want the nail to pierce your wiring.
Well, even if you try to hang, I mean, here
Yeah.
it won't apply, but you know.
Yeah, any type of metal, hardware, nail, screw, whatever, you don't want that to be piercing your wiring, and so it's safer to keep that wiring as you're threading it through to go through the middle of the board.
And I mean, if you look, that's why we put everything low, because the chances of trying to go low is not as high, right? I mean, I've seen
To go
contractors.
low is not as high.
Right. I see contractors that put it here because it's easier. As we were doing this, was very hard to do low, right? So it's easier to run it here because you work at
Eye
a better level, at eye
Right.
level. But then it's more likely that you will put a picture or something here, you know? So my personal opinion, code actually doesn't designate that, doesn't say where to do it. But I prefer to do them lower because it's less likely to have an intrusion lower, right? And here we made an opening already. The fuse boxes are not exactly like, but very similar to the plastic boxes. They have knockouts, and you can see they have knockouts of different sizes, right?
So if you needed to run a big conduit wire, you would have sufficient room to knock
Right.
that out.
And if you come inside here, for example, I can make a knockout to connect the power from outside. I will do it here, so we don't have another cable showing here, right? So there are plenty of knockouts, as you can see, in both sides. And we probably bought too much of a box here, but that's okay, right?
Okay.
Excellent.
So what we've completed thus far is running this first strands in addition to the original one, which goes up to the light switch. And again, they've drilled the holes with the paddle bit all the way through those boards in the middle. We're keeping them a pretty consistent height.
Again, not a critical thing.
Right, it's just more of a preference in how you're installing. And then the next run is going to come from this box again and go down and then across here. And it will tag up to that one that we placed high on the wall, come back down and go back to that final box on that other side of the door.
And we decided to put them on two different fuses because we have the space, really. So if we want to run two heavy equipment, we can plug them in two different circuits in essence, right?
Without overloading anything.
Correct.
Right. Okay.
All right, folks. It has taken us a couple of 3 hours to do the rough electrical in the shop, and we're going to show you one more time. What we think are the important things. First of all, do not bring the wire, even though it's very tempting, outside the stud, the framing. Believe it or not, in our last house, an electrician had done that, and it made a 5-minute installation of a light a half a day work, because we had to do the electrical correctly, right? The correct way is to make an opening. Again, don't be lazy and make a very big opening because it's easier to put things through, right? Make the right size opening. And also, you might want the gray Romex instead of the yellow, because the gray is a little more pliable. It carries less amperage to it, but it is a little more pliable.
And by Romex, you're talking about this wire.
Right,
and
that wire is
this
called-
has the yellow sheathing. The other one will have a gray sheathing.
Other than that, they look identical, it's just more pliable.
Okay.
And the reason we want that, this is harder actually to wire because it's a stiffer cable. And it will be harder to put things back in the box because again it's a stiff cable, but we won't worry about the wires potentially melting or getting the soap on fire because they were
Right. Because
overloaded.
we're using a lot of power tools and a lot
Right.
of things in here. Okay.
In a normal house, you don't really need that, right? So we have gone all around, and you can see out of each box, we have two sets of wires coming out.
So one enters the box at an entry point. In this case, it's at the top, and then we have this one exiting at the bottom.
Yeah, actually, it's the opposite. The entering one comes from the bottom and it exits from the
Okay.
top. But it's, yeah.
But for visual, what you're seeing is one from the top and one from the bottom. Now, the one from the top is the one that's going to feed to the light switch that will power the light up here when we get that hooked up. And then the one that you're seeing at the bottom is the one that is going to feed back to the main
Correct. It's
Main
feeding
box.
from the main.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it's from. Now, when you go around, you need to make holes again in any corner. You need to make sure if there was another stud here, in some buildings there is, right? So this will be flush instead of having this
right.
opening. In that case, the code requires you that you notch outside and put a plate over it.
Okay.
Okay? And that's the only time that you really should notch. And if you notch, it should be no less than 1/5 of the width of the board. So your notch cannot be like halfway through.
Right. Just enough basically to fit the wire in there, which this is not a very thick wire,
Right.
and then you cover it.
And in general, you should check your local code because localities have different requirements.
Yes.
I'm just talking about the national code. Most localities adhere to the national code, but in order to be secure,
Some do
yeah.
have strange things that they require. And
And
so
then-
here we are, headed back over to this box, and then just above it, we're gonna have this box.
Yes, this is the fuse box. And our power will be coming from the outside when we're ultimately done. At this stage, we're going to temporarily wire it to have power for when we need to use the soap. But again, I'm going to show you in a different episode. I will probably put a switch here so we can have solar or power. And I haven't purchased that switch yet, but I think that's the best way. Otherwise, we have to do it manually. And if you forget to do it correctly, you're going to have two currents competing with each other. And that's
And so what you wanted to say, instead of solar or power, you want to say solar power or the electrical grid
Right.
right into the electrical company.
because the soap will be a great test bed to test solar, which eventually we might want to do in the house too. And we did put a small solar light outside, and that has been working fabulously actually. I really enjoy having it.
Good.
And we're going to put the solar light here too,
For the interior
for the
for
interior.
now.
In any case, so when you go around, again, you see we put staples in all vertical runs.
Right.
You don't need staple in horizontal runs.
Right, because again, those could potentially puncture your exterior wall.
Right. And again, in each box, you're going to have one entering and one exiting cable. The entering one brings you power from the fuse
Source.
box for the source, and the other takes power to the next part of the run. By the way, this is why if we put, for example, this happened to be the first box from our fuses in this run. So if we were to put a GFI outlet here, it would protect all the outlets. That's why you don't need a new one on everyone, right?
Right.
If you put a GFI outlet on the last run, it will only protect that one.
The GFCI.
GFCI, right? It will only protect the last one. So you want it always on the first run, whatever the first run is, right? So most everything else is pretty much the same. All of them have two, as you can see here. We chose to have one up here too for convenience. Usually in a house you won't have one here, even though in the old house I put one for our TV. So if you have like a mounted TV,
Yeah.
you'll probably end up with a receptacle there. And then again we come down.
Well, we had to run it across to the
Right.
next board. Coming down again.
And as you can see, the last on the run has only one cable through it
Right.
because there is nothing else to go to.
Right.
And on the other circuit, the last in the run is the light. So the light has only one set of, you want to show that?
Oh, okay, sure. Right. I already kind of showed that when we were over on the other side.
Now you can wire more than one light, but the thing is, because the light is controlled by switch, all the lights will be controlled by the same switch,
Right.
or you have to run power to each light independently and have a bunch of switches.
Right. But potentially, because this switch only has power coming into it, we could wire something else coming out of it,
Right.
another switch or some such.
Yeah, because this is power outlets have constant power, right?
Mm-hmm.
Switches do not have constant power, so usually what comes after switch is whatever you want to control.
Right.
You don't run other things, right? And that may be one thing or 50 things, but all of them will be controlled by the same switch.
Okay.
All right? Did I forget to tell anything to the folks? But here is our finished project. Again, it takes 3 to 4 hours to do this.
And this building is what size again?
It is 12 by 16, right?
Right.
And it took us just about 100 feet of Romex cable to
To
wire
wire.
it.
97 to be exact.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we realized we need to power it up and put air conditioning here because it's very, very hot.
You just realized?
I just realized, yeah, today. So anything we forgot to tell the folks, the good folks?
I don't think so. This is a good example and demonstration of the rough-in wiring process for a building.
So if you have you build an extension to your house or you finish your basement and you want to put electrical, this is how you do it. We will do another episode to show you how you bring power to the fuse box, you know, but each run goes to the fuse box. I don't know if you want to show that, but
Okay.
each cable goes to the fuse box.
Yeah, we kind of showed that already. And then another episode is also going to be our finish wiring.
Right.
So you can see the wires running back to the fuse box on both sides.
So as you're looking at it, on one side we have one run and on the other side we have the other.
Yep.
The two different circuits. And we purchased a 6 fuse box. Probably we don't need that, but I might use 2 for each of these, and then I might do a 210,
220.
220 circuit.
Okay.
We don't have any 220 equipment so far, so we don't need it today, but we have that option in the future. So, and if you do 220, then you do want the yellow Romex because you don't want the thinner Romex.
Right. Okay.
There's too much amperage going through it.
All right.
So there are some specialty equipment you're going to need, and we're going to show you for what we did today, and then I'm going to show you what you need for the finishing part. Of course, you need your cable, and it comes in 25, 50, 100, 200, and 500 feet runs, or you can go commercial and get like 1,000-foot run. This will be very expensive, and I don't think you need that. But again, as we said, this was an 100-foot run, and we just took about, I mean, that's all that's left, right?
Right. That's what's left.
So it takes a little more than you think initially. A very useful tool that I had never used before today, but I really enjoyed it. And I don't know if we showed them this or not.
We showed it to them
Okay.
when we talked about we didn't show them the packaging for what it is.
So this allows you to do 2 things. One is to strip the Romex seating in a very nice one soup way. Soup?
Well, you actually can do 3 things with that.
Right, we haven't done the other 2 though.
Right.
So this is a must. I mean, you can do it without it, but this is a very inexpensive tool and really will make your life easy if you're doing something like what we did today.
Right.
Much quicker.
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
You need some form of snippers. These are for single wire, but you need something more substantial to cut the Romex, right? You will work very hard and for a long time to cut Romex with this. But the single wire will cut okay. This is one of my favorite tools, and this is a wire stripper. We'll show you how to use it next time. And this takes and strips wires to the correct length with one movement. Very, very nice tool.
And again, this just makes your life easier. You can definitely do it the hard way, but those tools are very handy.
And this is the variation of the same principle, but in a different expression. Now, you will of course need receptacles to put when you're done, and we're going to show you how we did that. And what else we need? We needed a drill, and we needed a paddle.
And a hammer. The paddle
did?
bit and the hammer.
Paddle bit and a hammer, right? Now,
Right.
and staples. We didn't use as many staples as you would think because you only staple vertical runs.
Right.
Horizontal runs between the studs. That's all you do. And this is the paddle bit we use.
And for this size, it was a 3/4 inch.
All Romex is the same.
Okay.
So a 3/4 inch would be appropriate.
And it made just enough opening, but not so much that it's floating in there.
and not too little for the,
Right.
because the cable is not as easy as you think to put through.
Yeah.
It is a tough cable. So don't go, there is one size down that is the
Probably
width
the
of this,
exact width,
but it is not a good idea to use that. You should use this one, the 3/4, because this is probably the ideal. And you want to do the least amount of damage to your studs, right? So here are the tools again that we use for today. And as you saw in the beginning, we did a little bit of woodworking. This was all electrical, right? But I like the placement of this. We hadn't used it before. This is the first time. And it makes it very easy. You're in a line of sight to see what you're cutting. It's very easy. So I think this will become a permanent fixture in the shop.
okay.
All right, friends, and this brings us to the end of our episode. And we certainly hope you did enjoy this episode. This was every step you need to do to wire a room, a house, a shop, anything you want, right? So you can follow our steps and you will have no difficulty doing that. Notice nothing here is charged, so there is no danger at all for electrical shock at this stage. There is nothing, no power going through any of the cables. So this is a safe process. If you enjoyed this episode, we would appreciate your support with a thumbs up. And if you have not subscribed, please do subscribe. The other button works as well, but we do hope you find value in our work and you do not give us a thumbs down. Please let us know what you would like to see in this channel. For the immediate future, we're going to have episodes that show how we finish the shop and also upgrades to the house. From the garage, we stopped the garage. What did I call myself now?
I don't know. Workshop wizard?
From the Homestead Wizard, there we go.
Sure.
From the Homestead Wizard, Elpida, Mrs. Wizard, and the Urban Homesteading channel, we wish you a great week. We're going to see you soon, and we want you to have a great time. Farewell, friends.